important factor in the development of the Weapon X program was Professor Thornton. During World War II, he entered service in the Army. He adopted the persona of a civilian consultant. He was very interested in learning and studying. He came upon something more significant in his pursuit of experimentation and investigating the veracity of the findings provided by the Nazis in their research on the Jews. Nathaniel Essex's laboratory and his journal. The journal recommended techniques and genetic evolution tests. In response, Thornton attempted to revoke the Weapon 1 program, which gave rise to Captain America, and the Weapon X program, which was conducted in the Weapon X facility. The facility is actually pretty significant. After considerable effort, team planning, and directives, the facility came to be. The facility's primary goal in its entirety: to bolster the armed forces, safeguard the nation's resources, and shield its citizens. The leaders of these organizations took a very moral stance and firmly believed in the actions they took. On this one, the Canadian Department K had combined forces with the CIA. Everything went smoothly, and numerous people participated in the genetic engineering trials and experiments. Wolverine, who is among the subjects, is someone we've all heard of. In order to take control of him, they attempted to create false memories in him. However, Logan lived longer than the facility did. The facility had directors, staff, and heads, as well as various residence locations. But its goals were constantly shifting. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The history of Weapon X facility. There was a Weapon X program run by the CIA. It was happening at the Weapon X plant. It was constructed by the Canadian government K, close to the town of Roanoke in Alberta. Professor Thornton made the decision to establish Weapon X as an independent entity. Director of the Weapon Plus program, John Sublime, attempted to close the Weapon X program, which set off a series of events that included Weapon X splitting off and leaving the Weapon X facility and ultimately falling under the shadow of the U.S. Department of Agriculture as a front for their illicit operations. Department K in Canada eventually took control of the former Weapon X facility. What is Weapon X program? Everything began when the U.S. government intended to apply the superpowers in a military capacity. Thus, the Weapon X, a top-secret government project, was developed. The United States government had previously organized a similar program. The Weapon Plus program's 10th installment was called Weapon X. Ironically, the Weapon X was actually the 10th project in that line because the projects were ranked using Roman numerals. But the projects had different goals, and in Weapon X, the team was particularly using genetic engineering to strengthen the mutations that were already present in healthy humans. The background of the Weapon X initiative is a fascinating read. Professor Thornton, about whom we have already spoken extensively, was the one who by chance happened upon Nathaniel Essex's secret laboratory. Nathaniel Essex was the man who created 4 clones to live after his death and fulfill his ambition to meet dominionhood. It was situated in a camp used by the Nazis. Professor Thornton was advising the U.S. Army at the time as a civilian consultant. The project's goal was to equip the armed forces with soldiers possessing absolute power. They attempted to replicate the triumphant outcomes of the Captain America era, which came to pass as a result of Project Rebirth, which was eventually revealed to be as the Weapon I program. Next, Thornton went on to do the hiring and channeling of program personnel. He hired former NASA employee Carol Hines and FBI scientist Abraham Cornelius as 2 of the program's key hires. Thornton, acting on Romulus's orders, sent Weapon X agents to apprehend the mutant Logan, a former member of the Canadian government's Department K and the CIA's Team X, codename Wolverine, whom Romulus selected to be the first victim of the process of bonding adamantium, known as Experiment X. The team then started with the experiments and studying of the trials. The group eventually figured out how to project Logan's thoughts onto the screen. The thoughts concerned his confrontation with Sabretooth following the horrific murder of Silver Fox, his beloved. Only Sabretooth killed her on Logan's birthday. They had to create a whole fake setup in Ontario in order to ingrain false memories and scenarios into Logan's mind. All of this was required in order for the team to gain command over Logan's actions and demeanor. Thanks to his success to CIA files, Thornton was able to enlist the other members of Team X into Weapon X. Victor Creed, also known as Sabretooth, Sergeant David North, also referred to as Maverick, and Wildcat, John Wraith, who went by the aliases Kestrel, Halcon, or Carlisle, Silver Fox, or a copy created by Romulus or the CIA, and Mastodon, also known as Elefante. Thornton was able to persuade the mutant Aldo Farrow, who was able to save all those elaborate setups, expenses, and money because of Aldo's sharp mind and ability to imprint memory solely on Logan's mind using his psychic ability. Along with joining the Weapon of X team, Farrow adopted the codename Vol. At last, Logan succeeded in freeing himself from the Weapon X and Department K's grasp. As he was leaving, he killed multiple people. Among the people he killed were Dr. Dale Rice and Malcolm Concord, the head of security. The pest control section of the U.S. Department of Agriculture was given control of the entire operation as a result of all of this chaos. Resuming his role as the main man, Professor Thornton stepped up to take charge of this operation once more and was appointed director of this section. John Sublime, who had previously worked as Dr. Cornelius's assistant, had joined Weapon Plus. Thornton had been informed by John Sublime that the seniors did not support extending the 10th iteration of the weapon program. After making that choice, Thornton chose to keep the organization independent of the main unit and to receive all of its funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Weapon X facility into the new Charles Xavier School for Mutants. Now, Cyclops had established a new base in the recently deserted Weapon X facility. Cyclops received assistance throughout from Magic and Magneto. Everything began with the tragic death of Charles Xavier at the hands of Cyclops, who, while under the influence of Phoenix Force, killed the man, broke out of prison, and became a wanted man. Subsequently, the trio embarked upon the divine task. They advanced cautiously and methodically in order to liberate the mutants who had been wrongfully and brutally imprisoned. It was their mutant revolution, whereby they used their abilities to save the mutants and give them a secure place on the recently formed X-Men team. Following her, Emma Frost also joined the team post her rescue by the Cyclops and Magneto. The new Charles Xavier School for Mutants was established by the four of them, Emma being the principal addition. They completely redesigned the infrastructure to increase its adaptability and personalize it to meet their requirements. A danger room, a cafeteria, and a few dorms were added. As the young, recently acquired mutants began their training, the facility began to fill up. Tempest, Triage, Benjamin Deeds, Goldballs, Stepford Cuckoos, Celeste, Irma, and Phoebe, Angel, and Hijack are the young mutants. Alternate versions of the facility. Mutant X, the X-Men film series, and the Wastelands are just a few of the parallel realities that were mentioned. We see the characters Wildchild, Sabretooth, and Wolverine undergoing experiments to become superhumans in Mutant X. Together, the three of them go by the name The Pack. In order to demonstrate what was happening there and the extent of their experiments, they had also brought Havoc of the Six to the same location. Alpha Flight had attempted to halt and seize control of them during their assault on the facility. In the X-Men film series, we see a subterranean facility that was actually used by Weapon X. It was here that they imprisoned Logan in order to imprint his memories, and where they practiced genetic mutation. Additionally, the staff had attached adamantium to his skeleton in this experiment. This facility was constructed over Alkali Lakes Dam. Later, the facility was abandoned as a result of the Weapon Plus program's complete abandonment of the Weapon X operation. Later on, Stryker was seen to be repurposing it. He had a goal when he went there, and he succeeded in duplicating Cerebro and Deathstrike, as well as the process that produced Wolverine. We observe in the Wastelands that the history and timeline of the Weapon X facility bear some resemblance to their Earth 616 counterpart. A little bit of time travels ahead to reveal that evil people control the United States and that it is utterly doomed. When Logan returned to the facility, he was shocked to discover that not many survivors were staying there for protection. When Logan and the survivors happened to cross paths, they attacked him on the grounds that he was a spy. The entire exchange was cut off when Maureen entered and gave the man's identity and motivations away. Logan began to stifle over in the settlement. He was able to maintain a relationship with Maureen and also began to feel something for her. Everything was fine and everyone was content there until one day the supervillains discovered it and launched an attack on the facility. Logan and Maureen left the settlement as a result of this. A few years later, we learn that Dr. Nathaniel Essex's clone, Mr. Sinister, has revived the Weapon X program. This time in a Hammer Falls building, he needed an army to carry out his plans to conquer America. He succeeded in creating clones of the Sabretooth, but they proved to be useless. After Logan and Hulk Jr., he dispatched Sabretooth and the clones to continue his research. Hulk Jr. was successfully apprehended and transported to the facility. With Danny Cage's assistance, Logan managed to retrieve Hulk Jr. and bring him to safety. In their ultimate conflict, the bad guys didn't have luck on their side, and Logan quickly brought the three of them, Sinister, Sabretooth, and the clones, to their untimely deaths. Marvelous verdict. As one of the Weapon Plus program's iterations, the Weapon X facility was a significant undertaking. It was released at the ideal time, received the necessary funding, and was able to fully operationalize thanks to Professor Thornton. He has been crucial to the entire process and has played a major role. The professor committed himself fully to the operation, and even after the organization was shut down by the Canadian Department K, he continued with it and managed the transfer of Weapon X from the facility to the U.S. Agriculture Department on his own. It was a disguise, a front for the entire illegal operation, but the activities were funded and continued over time. Logan had a significant part in the entire affair as well. Over the years, the Weapon X's setup, location, leadership, and other details have changed numerous times, but Logan has been there for the majority of them. Whether it was the instance of the original Weapon X facility, where he was being harassed by the staff for what appeared to be false memories, and where Aldo the Psychic assisted, or the instance when Mr. Sinister re-established Weapon X, and he was able to successfully rescue his friends and put an end to the entire situation. Along with Maureen, he was present at the settlement so he could move on from his past love and find closure. Although we kind of anticipated it, it was still surprising to see Mr. Sinister seize control of the building down the lane. Nonetheless, he used the facility and its agenda in an absolutely brilliant way. Speaking from a villainous perspective, Logan's perspective on the matter and his handling of it were equally outstanding. If the Weapon X facility had remained for what it was originally intended to be, it was a huge boom. Over time, it continued to deteriorate, and the entire goal and purpose were completely lost. It turns out that the idea of genetically altering people wasn't all that brilliant. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.